Top of the morning, lads and ladies. Support for the Off the Irish podcast is now brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below the waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision engineered tools for your family jewels, and you no longer need the look of the Irish with the ladies. When I tell you this is premium, I mean premium. The battery will last up to 90 minutes, so you can take a longer shave. The third generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents with their advanced skin safe technology pioneered by Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code IRISHPOD at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code IRISHPOD. Use the right tools and jobs to trim your pan potatoes.
Man, come on.
Welcome back. How's everyone getting on?
How are we doing, guys? Today we're joined by Jack Small. Jack, how about you introduce yourself?
Everyone, I'm Jack Small. I keep and breed poison dart frogs, and I've been doing this for several years now. And today we're just going to chat about it, talk about it, learn some stuff, have a good conversation, have some fun.
That's what we're all about. Now, I'll give it to you straight, Chief. Breeding dart frogs is definitely very niche. It's very unique.
Yeah.
And how did you get into it?
So it's been 7 or 8 years now, I think. And it all started when I went to the zoo when I was a little kid. And I saw the tank they had with these awesome colorful frogs in it. And I just thought they were so cool. And I just stayed there and I watched them for such a long time. And I was just totally captivated by them. And I came home and I started reading about them and found out you can actually keep them and that it was legal and safe and everything and totally possible. And so I started reading all about them and where you can get them and how to care for them and how hard it is. And I started talking to people online on different groups and everything and like on Facebook. And it just all started from there. And then I got my first frogs and,
There, yeah.
So that's right. And then now here I am. So, yep.
Well, I suppose so far so good. You've been at it for a while. One thing that had myself and Thomas shocked was how poisonous they are, but also, or how toxic, whichever. And then how in captivity they lose a lot of that, or they can lose all of it. It's very dependent on their diet. So, like I was watching a Coyote Peterson a video, and he was holding one, and I was like, "Is this guy for real?" And then,
is he about to die or what?
Yeah. Now, if they were to be like wild ones and you wanted to kind of keep away from them, how would they kind of get you? I've heard you have to lick them, but I've also heard they can do it from touch. So
if you lick them, yeah, that's definitely bad.
Yeah,
you definitely don't want to do that.
Don't go licking frogs, lad. That's so weird.
I really appreciate you not telling me what to do, and I'll lick as many poisonous frogs as I want. I'll deal
hey, if you want to.
Hey, I'm good.
Power to you.
Well, so yeah, obviously, yeah, if you lick them, that's definitely a no-no. But they actually, yeah, you can be poisoned just by touching them if you have open cuts or wounds or anything in your skin that could enter your bloodstream. That could do it to you, and or ingesting them, and if you eat them or anything, that can do it. Most of the frogs are actually not too toxic and are not deadly. Probably the ones that you saw in that video, were they green and black ones, or do you remember what?
It was red and teal.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So I actually have those. They're just right over there. I believe they are not that dangerous. You'd be irritated again if you had like a cut on your hand or something.
Yeah.
But most of them aren't that deadly. There are a few species though that are definitely dangerous.
Yeah,
but,
like that golden one.
The golden dart.
Correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So those ones are Phyllobates terribilis. They are considered the most poisonous vertebrates on the planet. If I'm not mistaken. And so yes, those even just holding those could definitely be lethal potentially. And I believe I watched a video quite a while ago, and they were out in Colombia where these frogs are, and they were catching them and doing whatever with them, taking a video and stuff, and somebody had on a latex glove, and it totally shocked me that they said they could only hold it for like a little while, or they had to switch the gloves or something because they were actually poisonous enough to burn through or like melt through that glove and actually, or maybe not actually, sorry, maybe not melt through or burn through the latex, but the poison is able to penetrate it and could potentially harm you even through that glove. So yeah, there are some definitely dangerous frogs out
I
there.
was watching that video earlier on. I was doing a bit of research on them, and
Oh yeah.
that
He was having a
woman,
great time. He was in absolute shock.
that woman who she was holding it with the gloves, she started crying and went to go rub her eyes, and the guy was like, "Please do not rub your
No,
eyes with
no.
the latex gloves."
Yeah. I do. You're right. Yeah. That it was so long ago that I saw that, but yeah, I'm remembering that now. Yeah. So, but that totally blew my mind because I had no idea that even through the gloves it could be dangerous. So
Yeah.
It's crazy.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But how poisonous is that thing? We read on Wikipedia that it can kill 10 to 20 fully grown men, like the poison from one frog, or it could kill 10,000 mice.
Yeah, I have heard that.
Ooh.
I've heard different. I know it's crazy. I've
How did they
heard
test
a
these
few
things?
different things. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Definitely don't want to be part of that test, but
Participant
yeah, I've
21 isn't
heard.
responding at all. It's like,
Yeah, I've heard
Oh
different
my god.
numbers. I mean, yeah, I don't know the exact number, but generally, if somebody asked me, that's probably what I would say around there. But again, yeah, I don't know how they test it. I guess just by dosage
Yeah.
or whatever they would measure, you know.
I'm
But
sure they have a general idea.
yeah,
They're not just throwing these at each other across the rooms.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, none of that. Hopefully, at least.
Yeah. Can we hear them in the background there?
You can, yeah. So I'm actually in my frog room now. I'm sure you can hear the chirps and all
Yeah.
that. I keep mostly the genus Ufaga, which are the red and teal one you said that you saw in that video.
Okay.
Those are in that genus. Those are Ufaga granulifera, and they are very vocal frogs. And it's fun because I keep a few different species in that genus as well as other frogs. But my collection at the moment is majority of that genus, and they all have slightly different calls, and that's one of the things that differentiates the species is the call. If it's faster, different pitch, all that stuff. So it's fun when they're all calling after I spray in the morning and stuff and mist their tanks. They all start calling, and it's fun because you hear all the different calls, and it's not just all the same. You know, you hear all sorts of different stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really fun to just sit here and listen. So I thought it'd be a good spot to be talking, as long as they're not too noisy. But
No,
that would be
they're working
something
very
fun to
well
add
for
in the
ambient
background.
noise.
Cool. Yeah, I figured it'd be fun to have them in the background. So
Yeah.
how many do you know exactly how many you have, or do you have a rough idea of?
um, it's hard because I have froglets as well. You know that are growing up. There's froglets in some tanks. As far as like my breeders go, I think as of right now, I downsized quite a bit. I think right now I have around 30 vivariums, and that's what you're seeing in the back. They're tank like they're considered vivariums, and so I think as of right now I have around 30. But and then most tanks have usually typically a pair in them, so just the two frogs. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
how does someone make money off this kind of stuff? Are you selling them as pets, or what's going on?
Yeah. So people do keep them as pets. A lot of the time, though, it turns in, even if you just get them as pets, you end up breeding them. Sometimes inevitably, it just happens. But yeah, there's groups on Facebook. There's groups on other social media apps. I also vend at reptile expos. So they're just kind of like flea market things, but just all reptiles and related animals. So amphibians and frogs included as well. But so I sell from there, and so I keep pairs of frogs, male and female, in their vivariums, and they'll lay eggs. And certain species, and in the genus Ufaga, which is what I mostly keep, it's actually really cool. The parents will take care of the babies all by themselves and just raise them up from tadpoles. And so I don't know if because you guys were saying you looked into it a little bit. Did you come across any photos or information about how they'll carry the tadpoles on their back?
Yeah.
To bring them to a water source.
Yeah, so it's super cool. And that's one of the fun things about keeping them is because you'll be walking around doing stuff in the room, and then you're looking at a tank and you'll actually see one of them has a tadpole on their back. It's so fun to see. And so most of the frogs that I keep, they will lay their eggs, and when the eggs hatch into tadpoles, typically the female will go and she'll pick up the tadpoles on her back and she'll bring them to the water source, like you just said. And then for the whole time that that tadpole is a tadpole before it morphs out into a frog, it will only eat eggs fed by the mother frog. It won't eat anything else. And so the mother has to go back periodically and lay unfertilized eggs for the tadpole to eat. And so they'll raise them by themselves. Just no work for me. I can't mess with them, because if you mess with them, then the female may stop feeding them. And so if you're unaware of there being tadpoles in the tank or eggs, you'll just be walking around someday, and then all of a sudden you'll see a little frog in there, just like a total bonus surprise, and it's super fun. And so, anyways, to answer your question, that's typically the process. They'll raise the babies, and I'll take the babies out and put them in their own little tanks to make sure that they have enough food. And then, yeah, I'll sell them or trade them at the reptile expos I was saying, or online, or local people I know. There's a network and community of people in the dart frog community, and so that's typically how people make money then. And then all that money usually goes right back into the frogs, either for caring for them or buying something else or buying supplies. So that's basically how it goes. So
I don't know if Tom's has seen it in film or TV either, but generally when you see like a reptile or an amphibian breeder in any kind of film, their only existence is that the things get out or so on. You ever see that in movies?
You mean like if something escapes?
Yeah. Like, yeah. I'm just thinking, like, has that ever happened to you?
So, admittedly,
because the representation isn't on your side there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Admittedly, yes, I have had a few escapees before. It's kind of inevitable when you keep this many frogs, and some of them are incredibly fast as well. So, thankfully, I'd say most of the time, almost actually all of the time, I've been able to catch the frog and return it back into the tank. I have had some accidental, once or twice escapees that I found like a week later dried up on the floor, and you're like, oh no, what? And then you have to try to figure out what frog it was, how it happened, you know. But most of the time though, I have been able to catch them and get them back into their tanks. But it is a process when that happens. I had one get out, and I live in an older house, and so there's a little bit of a gap in the corner right back there between the floor and like the trim, and it actually went underneath there, and I sat there, actually more like laid there on the floor for half an hour with a flashlight trying to get the frog to come out from underneath there to catch it and put it back in the tank. And I was able to. I was successful, thankfully. But they're fast, and it does happen for sure. So
yeah, that's unfortunate, but
yeah.
And you said you're breeding them, so like what are you breeding them for? Just to sell them as pets, or would it be like?
So
go on.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Finish your question. Yeah.
Like I know in bird breeding you normally breed for like cool characteristics. So like, what are you breeding for as a dart breeder?
Yeah, that's a good question. So breeding them, I breed them and provide them to other people because other people want them usually to then breed them themselves. That's a big part of the hobby for sure. And most of the time when I make money from selling froglets from them, which are baby frogs, in case, sorry, I may use some terminology that I'm used to talking to people who are also, who also know about frogs. So if I say any words that you don't understand, please feel free to just interrupt me and ask what the hell I'm talking about.
I mean, in the last hour, we've become like pseudo experts.
Yeah. So I will, I'll sell mostly to people who are also looking to breed. So they'll typically buy several or a couple froglets from me to then grow up, because to increase their chances of having a male and female, they won't just buy like one. And so most of the time when I make money though off of selling any of the froglets, it just goes right back into, like I was saying, right back into, building a new vivarium or buying different frogs or getting different supplies and stuff. And so what was the second half of your question again? What were you asking? Who I'm selling to typically, and
No, I was asking like what characteristics are you breeding for, or why
That
are you
was it.
breeding them?
For sure. So, the cool thing is that, um, well, cool in a way because lots of these frogs are endangered in the wild, and so partially due to smuggling, unfortunately, in certain cases for this hobby. And so the cool thing is that the more people that have these frogs and are breeding them, the less of a demand there will be, just simple supply and demand, you know.
Yeah.
And that'll curve smuggling because the more frogs there are, then people aren't going to want wild frogs or those ones necessarily as much anyways. And so then those frogs aren't going to be taken out of the wild and their populations can hopefully recover.
Yeah.
So it's really important actually that lots of people, since they are here, the more people that are breeding them, the less of a demand there's going to be for illegal frogs. So that's one of the things, not necessarily a characteristic that I'm breeding for, but a reason to breed that I think is important.
Yeah.
As far as characteristics go, the dart frog hobby is different than say like ball pythons or birds, like I think you mentioned, because people don't. It's called line breeding. People will breed like, oh, I've got this really nice blue frog, and I'm gonna breed it to this cool yellow frog and make a cool green one. None of that happens as
Yeah.
like you would with other animals that people breed, because each frog, even if it's the exact same species. So, for example, I have Ufaga Pamelio. I have a lot of my collection is Ufaga Pamelio, and you can have two frogs that are the exact same species, that Ufaga Pamelio, but found on different islands, and they look completely different colors. And so people like to preserve those locales, they're called, of those frogs and not mix them. So you wouldn't mix one from island A with island B to make some own new thing because you want to keep that population of like the island A ones to be pure. So there aren't necessarily characteristics that you're trying to obtain when you're, or like get a result when you're breeding them. It's more of just keeping those like lines pure of what those frogs are, if that makes sense. So it's different than, like if you're breeding, I know the ball python world, which is a type of snake, people have gone crazy with all these different morphs and colors and everything, and it's just become so complicated. And people really like in the dart frog community that there's none of that, and it's simple, and you're not trying to get the new best thing or make the next best thing or whatever, and it's just fairly simple. And so that's one of the things that's very appealing about the hobby, at least for me, and I'd say for other people as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm thinking in the context of bird breeding. My granddad, he kept. I don't know if he still does, but he kept budgies, so he'd be going for different colors there, so on.
yeah, cool, for sure. Yeah, that it is fun for sure. The only animal breeding that I've done is with frogs, but I have many friends that breed snakes, and I actually know a few people that breed budgies as well. But that is cool. It is a fun aspect, because if you mix this one with this one and try to see, and if you get a really cool looking baby, it's like, oh sweet, look what I got, and stuff like that. So that part is fun. So that part is kind of lacking from the hobby, but at the same time, within all of the locales, they're called, of frogs, so like from a certain island, there is still some variability. So you sometimes do get a really cool looking froglet, and like I was saying, the females will feed the tadpoles, and so then all of a sudden the baby will just pop out. And so you'll be just doing your stuff and you look into a tank, and then you get a wicked looking froglet, and you're like, oh sweet, like look, this is such a cool, and you'll take a picture, send it to your friend or whatever, like, dude, look at this froglet that just morphed out or just came out of the water. So there is kind of that aspect, they're not all the same, like just completely looking the same frogs every single time. There are some frogs that are like that are fairly standard, they all look pretty much the same, but there definitely is variability within the types that you keep. So you kind of still get a little bit of that like fun surprise, like producing a nice animal, so. But yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, I feel like I'm talking a lot, but
No,
there's
no,
so
you're good.
much that goes on, and I just want to make sure that
This is why we
I'm
invited
not.
you on the show. We want you to talk a lot.
Yeah.
We're,
So
we're
Yeah, I just want to
happy.
make sure I elaborate and stuff because it can be really confusing. I've explained to people before, and like I was saying, I talk about this only to other people who are in the hobby, and
yeah,
so I can use all sorts of different terms and say things, and that if I said to a normal person who doesn't do frog stuff, they'd be like, "What language are you speaking?" Like none of that made sense. So I
yeah.
just want to make sure that I'm not doing that right now.
No,
No, you did good.
we're here to
Cool.
learn. We like it.
So these frogs are native to Central and South America, right?
Correct. Yep. Correct.
And one thing that's pretty cool about them is, well, not cool for them, but cool for the people who make use of them. The hunters use them for the toxin for hunting.
Mhm.
That's pretty damn cool. I
It
didn't
is.
look it
Yeah.
up exactly why they do it or how they do it, but
Mhm.
resourcefulness at its finest there. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's where they get their name, poison dart frogs too.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I think the process. Obviously, I've never done it. I've never
Yeah.
really like looked into it too much, but I believe the process is they'll just catch the frog. Typically, I think using like a leaf or something to be able to hold it so
Yeah.
that
So
you're not
something waxy so they don't get
touching it. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
yeah.
And then I think they just I'm hoping I don't know this honestly, but I'm hoping that it doesn't kill the frog. I think they can just kind of, like rub the tip of the blade or arrow that they're using on its back. And then I think they use them to hunt monkeys or other things, and then that poison, instead of just hitting it and it being able to run off, that poison will slow them down and then kill them, and then they can
Yeah.
go and capture them, or you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
it is really cool. And honestly, like I don't know how long that's been going on for, but I'm sure it's got to be they have to have been doing that for generations, and it's so cool that you're right, resourcefulness, like just coming up with that and using the environment like that. It is really cool
Yeah. It's
for
impressive.
sure. Definitely.
Um, yeah. Uh, certainly weird, but
Yeah.
yeah. Besides
But
killing
yeah,
things,
really
they
cool.
have other uses, and like the toxins they produce.
Mm.
I know scientists have made like synthetic versions of the compounds found in their skin, and they can be used as painkillers, muscle relaxants, heart stimulants, and appetite suppressors. So they
For
have a
sure.
lot of use in the medical world.
Definitely, yeah, they're definitely important animals for sure. I'll be honest, I don't know a whole lot about um what they're used for. Like I know like what you just said, I'm aware that they're used for that, but I don't know very many specifics. And like what kind of things have been like created and what effects they've had and everything.
Yeah.
But I do know in general that they are used for that for sure. So they definitely are. Yeah, they definitely are important animals and used for science and medicine and all like that. So
Yeah.
mhm.
It's kind of cool how you see something so small be used at a grand scale and to actually help people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, are you guys aware of? Have you seen these frogs in person before, or no?
I don't think so.
At a zoo,
Maybe
maybe?
in a
No.
pet
Okay.
shop.
Okay. Yeah. They are very small. Some of them are about golf ball size, around there. So still, a small animal. But there is a genus of frogs called Renitomea, and you can actually maybe see. I have a poster just right back there
Okay.
with that genus and all the available species that in the hobby. And they're called thumbnails because they really are just about like the size of your thumbnail, which is crazy. And so, as we were talking about earlier, if they get out, you can imagine how hard that
Oh
is
God.
to catch. And they're fast. They're really fast, much faster than some of the bigger ones. And they're just so quick. And then you can imagine how small the babies are too,
Oh, yeah.
because if the frog's only that big, the baby's got to be smaller.
Mm.
And so yeah, they can be really tiny. I just wasn't sure if you guys were aware of like, I know they're frogs, so they're small,
Yeah.
but some of them are really, really tiny.
I mean, the
It's
average frog
crazy.
you find around my town would be too big in all fairness, but not that
Yeah,
small. You know,
yeah. It's
you
great.
probably
And
normally about the size of the palm of your hand.
gotcha, yeah, for sure. Yeah, most of these on average are no bigger than like a golf ball.
Mm.
Um, but some of them can be very, very tiny. thumbnails.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
What do you feed them? Like, what does their diet consist of?
that's a good question.
It's not the stuff that makes them poisonous, is there?
So yeah, no, thankfully not. So yeah, they in the wild they eat mites and termites and I believe ants, and the alkaloids that those insects have that I believe they get it from plants, and then the frogs eat those and are able to use those alkaloids to secrete the poison. And so I feed them fruit flies, and that's what the majority of the hobby, actually probably all of the hobby, uses as a staple feeder item for them. And so you may be able to see actually too, just right there, those cups, those are called fruit fly cultures. And it consists of the food at the bottom, which is just kind of like a gel made from, it's a powder you mix with water, and then that's their food source. And then you just stick coffee filters in it after it cools off, because you mix it with boiling water, sorry. And anyways, you make those fruit fly cultures, you put the flies in there and they'll breed. And the good thing about them is that they're flightless. So they can't fly. They're just basically like little ants.
Or are they
So they're like,
flightless?
they're,
Flies.
I know, I think they were genetically modified to not have wings. And there's also a variety that does have wings, but they just can't use them. And so there's a couple different kinds that you can use as feeders for them. But yeah, they don't fly, which is super nice, because that would not be very realistic if you had containers full of flies, because every time you went to open it to feed the frogs, they'd go all over the place. So they are, yeah, so that part is really cool. And actually something that I never really, because that's just so normal to me. If you said that to somebody, I guess that would be kind of weird, because yeah, they're flies, but they are flightless. So I just keep tons of these cultures that I just make on a weekly basis and put the flies in. They do their thing and they have lots of babies. And then those flightless flies, I cover in a calcium and vitamin powder, and I feed them to the frogs. So, yeah.
I'm kind of amazed at what we can do with genetic engineering.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't know.
Yeah,
I
again,
didn't
yeah,
know
I
you
never
could
really,
a flightless fly.
yeah, I never really thought about it, but yeah, you can. So, and the
Yeah.
frogs eat other things as well. It's good to have a varied diet for them. Just, not have the same thing over and over and over. But so I feed them flies and a couple varieties of those flies as well that are flightless. And they also eat these little tiny bugs called springtails, which are very useful for the babies.
Right there.
Oh, dude. Okay, cool. Yeah. I never knew before frogs, before I started doing frogs, but they're super useful for babies because, as we were saying, the babies are really, really small, and so it's super, super important to have those to feed the super small frogs. And then, are you familiar with isopods?
Yeah.
So I also keep a
Fun
few
fact:
types of.
they're crustaceans.
They are. You're right, and not many people know that. Cool. But yeah, so I keep a few types of those as well. Really small tropical ones, and the springtails and the icepods will actually live in the substrate of the tank, in the dirt and everything in the tank, and they'll be crawling around, and then the frogs will pick them off if they see them as an extra food source.
So you kind of give them the illusion of them hunting, like.
For sure, yeah. And also, it's really important to have those in the tank as well, because they act as kind of like janitors in the vivarium.
Yeah.
They'll clean up stuff, eat dead things, eat frog poop, all that. So they kind of keep it clean, and then the frogs eat them as well. So
Yeah. All necessary evils.
It's
yeah.
You were saying how small those things are, but I'm looking at how big those tanks are.
huge.
Yeah.
I'm a bit confused.
So
Are they far
do
away
need quite
from us, or are they close enough?
They're fairly close. So the dimensions of the tank that you're seeing there, that one is an 18-inch by 18-inch by 24-inch tank. Even though the frogs are small, they do need quite a bit of space. They bounce around, and so they need space to be able to move. If they were in something small, they'd just be bouncing off the walls. I have a larger pair of frogs in there, not the super, super small ones. But yeah, you may be surprised at how much room they'd need, because yeah, you'd think that just how small they are, they wouldn't need as much space. But when you keep a pair, or sometimes if you keep several frogs, you need to make sure that they have in the same tank. You need to make sure that they have their own areas to go and that they're not crowded. are not bullying each other, and have sufficient places to hide and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
these tanks are a little smaller here that you can probably see, and then I keep some of the smaller frogs, and those are typical sizes that I use for them.
Fair enough.
So yeah.
Thomas, I think I cut you off a second ago.
Thomas, you said?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Sorry.
What?
Yeah, I thought you were going to say something a second ago, and I cut you
Nah,
off.
man. I don't. Well, I can say something.
Go ahead.
If you want. Yeah, go ahead. Share now. Grand. How long do yours live for? Because I heard out in the wild they live for around 15 years. Is that in and around correct?
Yeah. So they do live longer in captivity. That's about average though, 15 to 20 years, I'd say. It depends on the species, but thankfully I haven't had any frogs die of old age yet, because like I said, I've been doing this for I think 7 or 8 years now, and a lot of the frogs I've bought and obtained have been younger. Like I bought them when they were young and grew them up. So no old age losses yet, but yeah, that is about average though.
Yeah. Yeah. What was it someone said to me before? Or was it me? Am I seen before? I was like, how terrifying frogs would be if they just walked like other animals.
Oh yeah, that'd be weird.
Yeah. That'd be something properly freaky. I could totally forgot like when he said like, oh, I have to jump in there. So I was just kind of like.
Yeah, that'd be weird. There are some though that don't move how you would expect, like a typical frog would just jump along. Some of the frogs I keep actually do almost like a walk. It's hard to explain, but instead of like hopping along the ground, they'll actually kind of do a walk, and it's actually really cool to see. But not upright though, thankfully.
Yeah.
That'd be weird.
The bumblebee toad, the tiger-legged monkey frog, red-banded rubber frog, the Senegal running frog, they're ones that display walking behavior.
Yeah, the tiger leg monkey frogs. That's what they call it, right? Tiger leg monkey tree frogs. Got confused there for a second.
No, you're right.
Yeah. Okay. I don't keep tree frogs. I did keep glass frogs in the past. If you're familiar with those, I have some friends that they're cool. They're one of my favorite types of frogs. Obviously, other than dart frogs, but they do. Yeah. So if you've seen a video, or if you have a video there of anything of the tree frogs, the monkey or the tiger leg ones, the way that they walk like that, I have frogs that do a similar motion to that.
Yeah.
It's really cool. But
and what kind of climate do you have to keep these guys in? Like, do you have to heat up the room in general? Do you have to use a light on them? What do you have to do?
The nice thing about keeping them is that they're fine at pretty much room temperature.
What state are you based in?
So I'm in Chicago, Illinois. Yeah, well, actually, not even. In the winter, it gets really cold here. We have bad winters here in Chicago. But in the house, just, as long as it's comfortable temperatures for me, then the frogs do just fine. They have LED lights typically over them to light up tanks for viewing, and so that they know it's daytime, and also for the plants as well, because all of my vivariums have live plants. So the light's super important for them. But when they have those, the LEDs don't give off much heat at all, but a little bit, and the ambient room temperature just being comfortable for me is fine for them, which is the nice thing. Because lots of the time when you keep, pretty much reptiles exclusively, just because they are cold-blooded and need that extra heat, you got to use heat lamps and all that stuff, and those can be a kind of a pain. I used to keep lots of stuff. I used to keep snakes and turtles and lizards, and you always have to use the heat lamps, and also special light bulbs too, for UVB exposure, which is basically like sunlight exposure for their bones and everything. And for keeping dart frogs, it's so simple, because all you need is just LED lights. You don't need to mess around with like fancy, there's different types you can get, and better ones and cheap ones, but it's fairly simple compared to having to keep reptiles, because the temperatures are fine. As long as it's just comfortable for you, they're usually pretty fine.
One thing that amazes me is reptiles and amphibians that can survive in colder climates like here. Like, I'm just thinking about it now. Like, always talking about the frogs that live around here, and in all fairness, our winters aren't nice.
Yeah,
they ain't nice. How
No.
how do they survive that? And we even have lizards that are native here.
Oh, do you really?
Somehow. They live
Cool.
in, is it Wexford or Wicklow?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Something like that, yeah.
One of those places. And what's unique about them is they give birth to live young rather than lay eggs.
Oh, cool. Yeah, live bearing animals are really cool. Just different. I don't think there are no dart frogs that do that. I don't know if there are any frogs that do that at all, though.
Mm.
Some random crazy species out there may,
Like, there's a frog for
but
everything. You want one that can climb upside down?
that's true. Yeah.
Look it up, you'll find it.
Yeah, I'm sure there may be something out there. But yeah, I know that always amazes me. I've always wondered how, because it's so cold here. But then we still have turtles, snakes, frogs,
That's crazy.
and you'll see in the summer, and then it's freezing cold. And I just always thought, I'm like, how do they do that? Like, but
Yeah.
yeah. So, but yeah, thankfully, yeah, year round, I just have their lights on. It's a fairly stable temperature inside my house, so they're fine. But
So no need to worry. They're A-okay.
yep.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yep.
Handy to have. Yeah, what we were saying there a second ago, like, if you want to look up something that something could do, there's an animal for it. And like, they can do anything.
There's some crazy stuff out there. There really is.
It's, some of them are a bit worrying, in all fairness, like those walking frogs. Kind of freaks me out. But
Yeah.
there's some weird ones left.
There's this one oh I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
There's this one species of frog, and the name is escaping me right now, but and I haven't looked into them just because they freak me out, and I don't like them.
Yeah.
But I think they might be called Pippa frogs. I might be totally wrong, but and they have holes on their back that the babies go in.
Oh no.
And I don't like it. It freaks
These
me
are the
out.
ones that people have like that fear of little holes and.
Yeah, and I don't know if I actually have that or not, but I don't like it. So.
No,
But is that what they're?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
They're flat frogs. They're kind of like flounders.
Mm-hmm.
They're completely flat and there's holes in their backs.
Mm-hmm.
That is disgusting.
Yep. Yes, indeed. It really is remarkable, but I just don't like them.
Yeah. Well, we're on the same page, buddy. Good Lord.
Yeah.
It looks like what do you call them? It looks like poppy seeds on top of a loaf of bread. That's what some of them look like.
Yeah.
That's disgusting. Let me
Yep.
get that off my screen.
Yeah,
so Thomas over here is in shock.
Yeah, it really is crazy though, and there's even more stuff out there like that too. That's just like, oh my God, how is that even possible? Or like, I had no idea that even existed. But yeah, weird.
Yeah, we live in a weird world. You've seen
sure.
that this year. How have you gotten on with COVID? Have you been okay?
Yeah, I haven't had it, thankfully. In Chicago here, at least in my, area here, it hasn't been too horrible. Nobody in my family's had it, thankfully.
That's great.
And then as far as everything with the frogs go, thankfully I have enough supplies and everything here to just keep them going. I don't need to constantly be going out and buying food for them because I breed the fruit flies that they need. So as far as that goes, I've been fine. I staying home and everything. I just work on stuff with the frogs, clean tanks, all that stuff. But I know for lots of people who, though, who vend at those reptile shows I was talking about, they've taken a huge hit, I think, because they closed them for so long. And people who sell their frogs and supplies and all that stuff there haven't really been able to do that. So that sucks for them for sure. But
our zoo was on the verge of closing down. Like our main zoo
really?
in Ireland.
Oh no.
We only have two. One is in Dublin, the other is in Cork. And Dublin Zoo would be a massive tourist attraction in Ireland, like one of the biggest. And they were on the verge of
it's huge zoo in the middle of a city. It doesn't belong there, but it works.
Yeah. Are you guys from Dublin or?
No, we're more central Ireland.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got you. A place called Offaly.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's COVID for you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So far okay. We were on our heaviest level of lockdown fairly recently. We're just out of it, maybe a week, 2 weeks.
about a week and a half maybe.
And
Gotcha.
yeah, I mean we've been safe. I haven't known
Yeah.
anyone who's gotten it. I've been
Well, that's
tested a
good.
bunch of times, so I've been okay.
Yeah, those tests are annoying. I don't know if maybe they
They're not
administer
very
them the same
nice.
way, but no. Yeah, but yeah, but as it goes for me personally, thankfully I haven't been affected by it
Yeah,
too horribly. So people have
praise
it a
the
lot
Lord.
worse. But
Yeah, no,
but I feel bad for people though who do have animals where they require to like have to constantly get a food source though, and have to go out or whatever. And if something, because a lot of people depend on the reptile shows to get food for their pets and everything. And with them shutting down, that must be really stressful. Because I know I've had a few times where I have a fairly large collection, and I've had a few times where I will mess something up when making the fruit flies, or sometimes the cultures will just completely crash and not produce,
yeah.
and it's stressful, And so,
And like
um,
as a last resort, like what would you try to feed them? Like I
honestly,
doubt they can eat human food of any
yeah,
kind.
no, honestly, there isn't really much. That's why it's important to have a variety and always have extra,
Mm.
in case things like that happen. Because they need, obviously, they're so small, they only eat small things, and they need to be moving for them to see them and realize it's food and then eat them. And so it's important in this hobby too to have to know people and have contacts and friends and stuff. So I have quite a few local friends and everything, and we've got a little community here. And so if somebody is like, "Hey, all my fruit flies died," or it just, they crashed. Does anybody have any extras? There's usually people like, "Yeah, swing by. I can give you one or two," and hopefully help them out. So it's really nice that there's a good community and everybody's friendly and close and everything.
Yeah,
When it comes to this, it definitely helps for sure.
yeah. What you're saying with contacts, that's kind of well, we found that that's a thing in every industry, in
Yeah,
everything.
Yeah.
definitely.
You know, even if you want to cut the line at a grocery store, it's who you know. You know,
Yeah,
it's literally for everything.
for sure.
Um, and yeah, having good contacts is a good thing.
Absolutely.
100%.
That's definitely handy what you're doing. So you're saying like you have to get most of your food um, from these shows, or you have to make it yourself.
Yeah, so for me, thankfully, I make them myself. So I go to the shows usually for fun or to help vend and sell things,
Yeah,
because I have friends that go all the time. But for other people though, sometimes who have smaller collections, um, and they don't bother making, because it can be a bit of a pain to make the fruit fly cultures every
yeah,
week. Some people will just go to the shows and just spend the money, and they're like, yeah, I'll just buy them every week or every 2 weeks. But if the shows don't happen, then they're out of luck, unless they
yeah,
have extras to be able to. So, but then I know for a lot of people though, who keep other things, um, one of the main sources for feeding food sources for reptiles is crickets, and crickets are super annoying to keep.
they're loud.
So I think a lot of people, yeah, exactly. A lot of people I think buy them. Just they just go periodically like to the expos or to
Yeah,
the reptile shows and just buy them.
yeah.
But
I
so
know
yeah,
I
that
know a
must
guy
be
who keeps
stressful for sure.
crickets for his frog,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
good lord.
yeah.
Number
I
one,
hate
is it
crickets.
disgusting to look at?
Yeah,
It's rotten. If there's one thing I'd like to purge from the earth, uh, it's crickets.
yeah,
They're rotten.
mm,
But yeah, he keeps them for his frog.
yeah.
Be wasps.
Hmm?
What do wasps do? Purge wasps, not crickets.
Mosquitoes. Apparently, mosquitoes
Ah,
don't actually have an ecological role, so you could get rid
well,
of them.
I do. They are a food source. I know for bats. We have a bat house.
Bats will move on.
They'll move on. Yeah,
Uh,
that's true. We do, but it is nice though. In the summer, we have a bat house, and so there's bats in our backyard. And I have noticed when they come that there do seem to be less mosquitoes. Maybe it's just me thinking about it, but I know they do eat them. So,
yeah.
but yeah, bats can move on. They'll find something else.
Good lord, I'll feed the bats myself. Um,
Yeah,
good lord.
if it means no more mosquitoes, sure,
Yeah.
I'll help you.
Worth it.
Funny enough, Thomas, you're talking about wasp there. We're having a wasp expert on soon. You know that?
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
we've kind of moved on a little bit. Like, we used to do like a lot of actors now we're trying to mix into people who are experts in certain fields of science,
Cool.
and then while also having some actors, just not the same amount.
Yeah. Well, that's a great way to diversify like your audience and everything. You know, have lots of different subjects. People, I'm sure. So you post on YouTube, correct?
Yeah.
YouTube, and then anywhere you can find a podcast. Find us on Spotify,
but
Apple
we're
Podcasts.
predominantly YouTube, like, you know.
Cool.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. So yeah, I know maybe some Dart Frog people will come across this because there are some videos. You know, I mean, there's still lots of videos of Dart Frogs and Dart Frog content on YouTube, but you run out after a while, and not many people make them. Like currently, you know, a lot of them are older, so you may get some new fans after this gets posted, and maybe somebody will come across and search Dart Frogs and, you know, see it.
See what happens.
Yeah.
But you know, people aren't coming really to see us. They're coming to see like the guest or the topic. Like, people aren't coming to see me talk or ask you questions about frogs. They're here. They're here for your answers.
Right. Sorry. Hold on. These just my. I was using my AirPods and they just died. You want to repeat what you just said real quick?
Yeah. I'm saying, like, people don't show up to see me ask you questions about dart frogs. They show up for your answer, or like for your expertise.
Right.
They don't show up so they can see Thomas ask an actor about the role. They show up to hear the actor talk about the role.
For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
We just facilitate it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's great fun running a podcast. You should try it sometime.
Wait. Sorry. What did you say?
I said it's great fun running a podcast. You should try it sometime.
Yeah, you know,
Crazy fun.
in the last few months I've started listening to random ones here and there, though. They're really great. I know my mom actually listens to a lot of podcasts, especially like in the car. On her way home from work or wherever she's going, sometimes she'll listen to podcasts. They're really cool, and I like that they're becoming more popular for sure.
Yeah.
They're really great, but
you got any ones to name drop you like?
Oh, honestly, they've just been like this one guy does this amphibian one that I've listened to a few of. He's interviewed a few guys I know. I wish I could say some names, but I don't even know any.
You ever watch stuff you should know?
No.
It's hard to miss those guys. It's hard to miss them.
Yeah. All right. I'll have to check them out.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, I'm not gonna recommend a bunch of podcasts. You know, Jack, this has been great. You've been a great guest. You know, thankfully this went well. I hope people actually learn something. And
yeah,
have a
for
good
sure.
day.
Thanks for having me.
If people want to check you out, where can they find you?
So I have my Instagram account. It's just Jack Small Frogs, and I just post photos of all the frogs I have. It's kind of a photography account as well. Just I use my camera to, you know, take macro shots of them, and then I put the names of all of them. So if you want to go learn about some different frogs, see some different colored ones and everything, you can check out my photos there. I'm on Facebook as well, just my name, Jack Small. My profile pictures of frogs, should be easy to find. I think that's it, just Instagram and Facebook. So I've been considering I've had a few people tell me to start a YouTube. I've considered it. I haven't gotten around to it yet, but maybe in the future.
I did actually, before this happened, I did try to look you up on YouTube. I didn't find anything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Up there. But yeah, no.
I was the one who found you.
You should.
I said, I need to talk to this guy.
I would recommend starting YouTube. It's a lot of fun, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, people find a lot of pressure behind it, which there is. But like, not to the extent that you think. Like, your first 3 or 4 videos are going to be absolute ass. But after that, you're going to get into a flow. You're going to know how to do things.
For sure.
So I suppose you definitely have a defined niche. So maybe you give that a try, Jack.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, cool, but we'll see.
You never know. So thanks everyone for listening. Hope you all have a good day. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. And
Absolutely.
take it heavy.
Look it.